Let's get nerdy and talk about site selection for restaurants and retailers. How much is the rent? Should be very low on the list of questions from a prospective tenant. At the very top of that list should be a consideration for the sales potential at any given strip mall or shopping center. I'd like to provide an example of a restaurant who relocates to save on rent. In this example, you can see that top line revenue was $1 million in sales, and cost of goods, et cetera, scale through to net operating income of $250,000. This tenant hypothetically relocates to save 50% on their rent, but in doing so picks an inferior location with less co-tenancy, less traffic, maybe just a less visible location. And as such, their sales declined by 40% from what they once were. In this case, there's $600,000 worth of sales coupled with $50,000 or 50% in rent savings results in even less income. So while the business owner may have thought this relocation would directly impact favorably the bottom line, they've actually wound up with a scenario of slashing their profits. This isn't the best example because the business owner who's truly clearing $250,000 probably isn't actively considering a relocation. Life is good. So let's take a look at probably a more realistic scenario. So in this example, revenue was only 700,000. Cost of goods was higher than in the prior example. Maybe there's some inefficiency in their operations. But what the business owner needs to consider is that some of these costs in the new location aren't going to index the same savings as they achieved for rent. For instance, they still have rent, they still have utilities, they still have marketing. In fact, maybe they need to market themselves more because the location is less visible. So they need to be more proactive with Facebook or other forms of sponsorship or marketing to bring customers in. This example is showing that, in its former location, it was tough. They were only clearing $45,000 for their risk and for their effort. And this could be a scenario where the business owner truly is looking outside to relocate and consider how to improve profits for their business. So to make a decision, they relocate to save 50% in rent. But similar to the first example, sales decline by 40%. Cost of goods sold, index pretty favorably. Labor is down a little bit. Maybe they're able to trim an employee. But here too, insurance, marketing, and miscellaneous expenses don't index the same savings. And while they saved $50,000 in rent, they've taken their business from profitable to operating in the red. So I just wanted to share this example. While these numbers are hypothetical, this is a real life scenario based on a real tenant relocation decision that I've recently observed. Because I'm a nerd for real estate, I've been watching it play out on Placer AI. I wish this business the best. I'll keep an eye on things, but it's really interesting to take a look at what's happening with this business who relocated for rent savings. Hope this was helpful in some way. Thanks for joining me for a nerdy real estate chat. We'll see you on the next one.